only was her leg doing, what? What's he doing? To a much awaited vlog. I know I've not filmed anything in ages and it's been a bit of a whirlwind, and I left you on quite a cliffhanger with my last vlog being that I have in fact got a new horse. I know, what? Well, sadly things haven't gone the way I planned, so today I'm going to be doing a little update video for you guys to let you know what's been going on since I got Candy and my plans from there. I have got a bit of tidying up to do, so I'm going to do a tidy up and talk. So I'm going to do some bits around the stable in the yard, tidying up a little bit, and fill you guys in on what's been missed over the past few months. So stay tuned. So Marley is currently in a borrowed stable that belongs to one of the live with guy yards, so I'm going to tidy up a little bit in his stable over there. So let's head over there and get started. Before I get going, I should probably mention that this isn't actually Marley's stable, it is actually Candy's. Yep, that's right, Candy is back. It has moved down to our home with me, so me, Candy and Marley are now based back at my home yard in London, which is great. So while I'm in here today, I'm going to be doing a little bit of tidying up. So my rugs are a bit of a mess, my head collars, and I'm going to do a little bit of decorating as well. So let's get started. First up, my head collars. So this is my head collar wall in my stable, and thankfully Candy's in here, not Marley, because Marley would absolutely trash these things if I left him in here for too long. He does come in here occasionally, but we'll get into that in a minute. So I'm going to sort my head collars out to give you guys a quick update about what's going on with Candy. Okay, so Candy update. So in my last video, obviously I bought my new mare Candy, who is 15-3 thoroughbred cross Takena, and I bought her with the intention of show jumping, the key word being intention. So we got her, I literally got her in March, and a week later I decided to just bite the bullet and book our first show jumping show. She hadn't been jumped for a little while, so we started small, and she was on training with my trainer and my sponsor, Nikita over at No Problem Equine Solutions. She was very helpful and got Candy a fighting fit again, so she was ready in time for us to do a little bit of show jumping. So I went over there and she was really good. Candy performed really well and Nikita was a huge help. It wasn't a perfect round, and I'll do a little show update because I haven't done a vlog for it. So we ended up doing the 50 centimetre and Candy was brilliant, but sadly I had a bit of a sat-nav error and I just forgot my course, or rather I got confused between the jump off and the main course. So sadly I ended up cutting a jump out, which meant that we were eliminated, which was really annoying because up until that point she'd gone clear, we were doing really well, speed was amazing. So I thought, you know, we could probably actually win this. I did go into it not having any expectations. I wasn't planning on winning and competing or whatever. I did just want to go for the experience, but she did really well. And going to 60, I did think actually, let's try a little bit harder this time because she's done really well. We could probably actually get a rosette today. So when I went to the next class, 60 centimetre, I made sure that I didn't forget my course. And thankfully I didn't. I jumped around and we jumped clear again and we got into the jump off. Because I'm now feeling more competitive, I thought I'd try and do a little shortcut and try and get a bit of extra time off our time, which sadly didn't go as planned because I had a little bit of an error and I got a bit mixed up, and Candy locked onto the wrong fence, and obviously jumping the wrong fence would also mean elimination again, and I was determined not to get eliminated in both classes in one day. So I put the brakes on, and Candy, again being ever vigilant, was amazing, and she stopped, but she stopped so suddenly that I went flying off the side. I'll see if I've got a video because it was a really funny almost fall.
Yeah, well said, Christine.
I didn't fall off. I managed to somehow defy gravity and save myself and stayed on, but it did mean that we added extra time on 2-hour round, so my shortcut ended up costing us time rather than saving it, and we didn't get into any of the placings. But I was just pleased that 1, she didn't get me off, 2, she stopped when she was locked on, and 3, we made it round clear and did get eliminated again. So all in all, although it wasn't the perfect day, it was definitely a really good experience, and it gave me a really good idea of what Candy would be like out in a competition area. So the show, all in all, was a really great experience for both of us, and I started to feel so hopeful about my show jumping career. I was finally getting out there and doing it, and I couldn't wait to do more with Candy. But sadly, things started to take a little bit of a turn. I am done now with my head colours, so let's go over and do my rugs. We had an amazing time at our show and Candy was brilliant, so I started to think a little bit more about what to do with her from there. I decided to book a group work clinic a couple of weeks later, and in that time Nikki was doing some more work with her, getting her out hacking, and I was going down when I could to ride as well. We went over to the group work clinic and things sadly started to go a little bit downhill. On my way there, Candy didn't quite feel right. We knew she could be a little bit footsore, but it just felt like something was a bit more going on. So we decided to not do any more at the group clinic. She went home and I called the vet out the next day. Sadly, the vet did find that Candy was lame, and not just a little bit lame, she was actually very lame. She had an injury on her left foot in the past, and it seemed that because she'd been doing a bit more work, it was flaring up again, and we looked at her vet history, and it seemed that it hadn't actually been treated, it kind of been rested, and it seemed that the rest wasn't enough and treatment was needed. I spoke to my vet about what we needed to do, and we went through the best course of action, which she said would be field rest for a very long time. So Candy head out on field rest for a year. Obviously, this was back in March and it is now November, so why has Candy got a stable she meant to be in the field? Well, good question. So, why is Candy back in the stable? So Candy went out into field rest back in March. I found a really nice yard over in Essex where she was staying out in a herd and she was doing quite well. Although she didn't really like being out, she seemed to go out really nicely and she settled really quickly. So I was happy, she was happy, and she was out there. Obviously, being in Essex, she was quite far away, so I couldn't go and visit her often, but again, the yard owner over there was super. She kept me updated all the time, and I knew that was going on with Candy. She normally would text me or send me a WhatsApp about what's going on, but one day on my way into work, I received a phone call, and I immediately knew that this wasn't going to be good news. Alongside of this bad news, I was having a bit of a tough time with Marley, which we'll get to, so it was kind of a lot to be having at once, but what can you do? Horses are going to be horses. That call was letting me know that Candy has sadly been kicked very badly in the field and needed to come back home for box rest. Yeah, really unlucky. So as you can tell, my start with Candy hasn't been the best. She's actually been very, very unlucky and it's not been a great start, but there is light at the end of the tunnel, don't worry. So because of the nature of Candy's injury, she had to come home pretty much straight away. I received this call on a Friday and luckily I didn't work on Saturday, so my yard manager was really helpful and straight away the next day he took me over to Candy and we picked her up. I wasn't sure what to expect. I was sent pictures of her injury but they weren't exactly clear and I wasn't really sure what was going to be going on, so I went in there kind of expecting the worst. When I got there it wasn't that bad until we tried to load her and she literally couldn't walk. It was really heartbreaking to watch. She pretty much jumped into the trailer because she couldn't lift her leg up onto the ramp, so it wasn't good at all. The kick itself was in her hock and her hock was probably 3 times the size it should have been, which as you can tell is very, very unnerving for a horse and very worrying for an owner. That's my We got her home and thankfully got her in a stable, and thankfully in a few days time with some food and antibiotics it went down really quickly. I got the vet out while she was here and I took some x-rays to see how she was, and thankfully there was no real damage. It missed all of her bones, there was no fracture, so it was just a case of treating the initial wound. The wound itself was quite deep and it could fit a pinky in, which as you can tell is probably quite gross and hard to treat. I basically became a vet nurse for a few days. I had to inject Candy with penicillin, I had to do daily cleaning, internally and externally, and I learned quite a lot about equine medicine in that few days. But thankfully I seem to have done a good job because she is now back on the mend. So Candy was on box rest for 2 weeks, which as you can imagine stressed her the hell out because she hates being in. But she actually did really well. She then went on to small turnout and she had a 2-week check with the vet, and after that it was actually much better news. Not only was her leg doing— what's he doing? Okay, so where was I? Yeah, 2-week check. So following Candy's accident and having a bit of rest, box rest and small paddock rest, we had a 2-week check with my local vet and it was thankfully good news. Her leg had healed really nicely, I could stop antibiotics, we could stop hosing, and I could stop the internal cleans and allow the wound itself to heal. As well as that, we also found out that she is now completely sound on the hind leg where she was kicked, which is great news, and on top of that she was actually much sounder on her front leg. sound to the point that he said I could start reintroducing written work, which after being told that I couldn't write her for up to a year, it was really, really good news. Now, of course, with that, I'm not saying we're going to be out jumping this year, we're not going to be out doing very much at all this year, but I am able to actually get back on her. We're doing a little bit of riding every now and then, and I do mean like maximum 10 minutes, and we're still very much staying in walk, but just being back on board my girl is like the best feeling so far. I'm so happy that she's doing so well and doing better, and I've definitely got a brighter outlook now than I did a few months ago, absolutely, because a few months ago I was thinking I bought this horse and I'm never going to get to ride her. So thankfully we're on the way out, but yeah, we're still very much not out of the woods yet. She's still doing very light work, but thankfully we are doing something. Now that is the update on Candy down, and I've been up to where we are now. Candy's now back with me and we're doing a little bit of riding. Now Marley, because Marley's also kind of been through the walls since we've been away. Speaking of Marley, hello little mountain goat. What are you doing up there? So speaking of the little treasure, there he is, mountain goating. So next part of the vlog is going to be Marley's update, and while I'm doing this I'm actually going to be putting my rosettes up today, so we're going to have a little bit of a decorating session in the stable. My rosettes are just down here, so let's get to that and I'll tell you guys what's been going on with Mr. Marley. Marley. So what you guys remember is that Marley went off on loan for a year when he was 4. So I decided to send him off on loan because I wanted him to get out of the city, get some more experiences under him, and of course do a bit more hacking, which I can't do here in London. He went over to a really lovely girl called Meg, who's based over in Coventry, and they did super together. He started doing loads of hacking with her, he was doing some ponytail activities, and they even started jumping together, and it was so great to see their partnership grow, him growing as a horse and her growing as a rider together. It's great to see them learning from each other. Now sadly in August I got a call from the loaners, and as you know, as a horse owner, getting a call just is never good news, and sadly it wasn't. I can't get this rosette up, bear with me. Get on there we go. Yeah, so it was on the same day that I just left my role at Ebony Horse Clubs. It's already quite a stressful day, good and bad. Obviously it's a good thing that I'd left, I chose to leave, but it was still quite sad. So I was kind of on a high, I had a really good leaving do, and I just got home, and then my phone started ringing, and I already knew, looking at who was calling me, that it wasn't going to be good news, and it really, really wasn't. Meg's mum was calling me from Newmarket Equine Hospital where Marley had been admitted. So this all happened around August, and she was calling me from Newmarket Equine Hospital where Marley had been admitted for a kick, and she was actually calling me to get permission as to whether or not she could put in for surgery or not. Now, as you can tell, as a horse owner, that was a really stressful call for me to get. I was completely beside myself, I didn't know what to do. Part of me was planning on going down there to see him. I honestly looked up cycling directions to get to Newmarket and thinking, hey, let me just cycle over there, because I didn't know what to do. But I knew that going there wasn't going to help him at all. I couldn't do anything and she was right there with him. So I just waited by the phone to get updates. Luckily, Marley did really well in the surgery. He was fine and he came through it really, really great, which was really, really good news, because I was just so stressed as to how he was going to be, but it wasn't good news. He'd been kicked in his right fore, so his leg was massive. I didn't see it itself. I got some photos at the time, and he'd been found in the field like that, so they didn't know what happened. He was literally, when they got there, they said he was sat down, he was trying to get up but he couldn't, and they really struggled to get him loaded to go to hospital. So obviously I was really, really stressed as to how he was. But the surgery went really well. There was no breaks, thankfully, but all I could see from what they sent back was that his whole leg, his whole front leg was bandaged, and I just couldn't really make sense of what was going on. I wasn't able to go down and visit him, but I did get a call from them later on. Sadly, with his care being very different now, he had to be on box rest. He needed his dressing changes, his legs re-bandaged several times a day, and she was just really worried about the rehab he was going to need. not being that experienced with obviously equine lameness and those kind of things, they wanted to make sure they were doing the right thing by him. So they asked if I could take him back through his rehab, which obviously I agreed to do. I was now living closer to the yard because I started working here, and it just made sense that if I could do it, then I would. So I accepted that, and I was very happy to say that I would have Marley back and do his rehab. Now, while he was here, they decided actually he was going to be much better off in my care, and decided to end the loan early. So Marley wasn't gone for a whole year, he's actually only gone for a few months, 9 months. He came back in September. Since then, obviously, as you can guess, it's been a little bit here and there. It was actually really stressful for me having him back, because in my head, obviously nothing against his loneliness, but he wasn't the horse that I set him away. When I set him away, he was 4, he was younger, and he'd come back to me a bit more mature, he was doing all the different things, and I was like, oh my god, where's my horse gone? So it was quite a really big change for me having him back, but of course I was still happy to have him back. Despite his lameness, he was still really cheery in himself. It didn't take long until his bandages came off and the staples were taken out, and it was good to see that his leg had healed really nicely, although I will show you some videos. He has got an elephant leg, his knee has never returned to its normal size, it is now twice the size it should be, but we just think that's going to be some scarring from the initial impact of the kit, and he's always going to have a giant leg. Going through that, bringing Marley back into work, I was really worried. Some things just weren't quite right. To begin with, I started working him on the vet's advice, so I would bring him back into work, so I did, but he wasn't trotting properly. He was really reluctant to trot on soft surfaces, but a fine trot on hard. And then he stopped trotting out hacking completely, so I was really worried about him. So I decided actually we're going to just take it back a step. I put him back onto rest, I didn't ride him for a little bit, and thankfully he came back into work a lot better, and now he is better than ever. So that brings you up to date with everything going on over the last few months. Please stay tuned, there will be more videos coming now that I've got them both back and they're both being ridden. I've got something really exciting that I'm doing next week. It's not riding, but I will take you guys along with me if you'd like to see it. So stay tuned, remember to subscribe if you want to see more videos. Bye!